everybody for coming. I'm sorry it's a little bit crowded. I wasn't completely sure how many people would come, but it's always good to be crowded than the other way around.
Amen.
Super, super happy to see you all and to have Rotem and Osama here. One thing before we start, just so you know, if kind of you need in the middle, I don't want to interrupt anybody. The bathroom is just around the corner here. Like literally there, second door. Okay, so I wanted to start with a poem from Mahmoud Darwish. I'll read it in English since that's the common language here, although that's not the language that it was written in. As you prepare your breakfast, think of others. Don't forget the pigeon's food. As you conduct your wars, think of others. Do not forget those who seek peace. As you prepare your water bill, think of others, those who are nursed by clouds. As you return home to your home, think of others. Do not forget the people of the camps. As you sleep and count the stars, think of others, those who have nowhere to sleep. As you liberate yourself in metaphor, think of others, those who have lost the right to speak. As you think of others far away, think of yourself. Say, if only I were a candle in the dark. So for many reasons, these are pretty dark times. And we have Osama and Rotem as candles in the dark to give us some light and some hope. So the floor is yours.
Thank you for having us and organizing this wonderful evening with us. I think we won't be candles if we don't get supported by many candles around, and that's our hope and where it comes from. I believe we need to be candles in this darkness somehow, not a choice even. Yeah, and we came here to share with people who are willing to listen to each other, to think together what is the right and the wrong thing. We are not here to teach anyone anything, you know, just to share our realities and our needs and our fears. And try to reach a place where we can help each other to reach this, because what's going on now in our land is not safe for anyone. Not what we dreamed about. It's not a place where anyone will be happy, especially during this war. Like this war, no matter who's gonna win the war, we're gonna suffer from traumas for another ages for our children, both sides, and that's very hard to believe how many traumas we have to deal with, and that makes us work more to stop what's happening, because every day is really important and counted.
Yeah, I feel that you are the lighter that lights the candles. Like we come here and we came 10 days ago. We didn't really know anyone, but slowly people are hearing about us and meeting us, and then it spreads all over, and suddenly we have more and more invitations. And I think without people who are willing to support and to help us spread this message, we will not succeed. And we need to unite. We need to understand that there is a big system here, a war system, and we have to challenge it, and we will not be able to succeed if we don't unite. And if we will not create an alternative, first here, and then also in action. Yeah, so I want to thank everyone for coming. And yeah, we will share our stories. And so the first part is basically our experience. Each of us was born on different side of the wall, and completely different reality. And we will share how we grew up, and later what made us start to challenge and to ask questions, challenge the common narrative on each side, ask questions, realizing that it's much bigger than what we were told, actually, and much more complicated and complex. And then what made us come together and meet each other since 7 years, we are friends and we help each other to deal with the reality and support each other. And then we also try to change the reality somehow to inspire people that there is another way. And the second part will be questions, so you can ask whatever you feel like, and we'll do our best to answer. And like we do it, we don't have any organization that supports us. We decided to come here because we believe that
I don't understand a word they're saying.
she does hearing. Sorry.
You can't hear?
I'm sorry, I can't understand what he's saying at all. So I don't know if it's me or the
If you
situation.
can try to turn up the volume, but this is the best.
Yeah, okay, I did. I'm gonna mute.
It is hard to hear, I have to say, and I have my volume turned up all the way.
Bit closer now.
Let's see now, yeah.
I'm muting myself.
So we decided to come here. We don't have any organization behind us. We came here because we believe that it is very important to change the narrative in the United States, because without the support of the United States, Bibi will not be able to continue this horrific aggression on Gaza and on the West Bank, and we are here and we are looking for support. So anything from like just spreading the message with other people. If you know someone who will be interested to invite us, if you know whatever universities, organizations, we are looking for people who would like to help us spread this message.
Yeah, so usually we share our personal stories just to understand where we came from, especially if you've never been in the land. So my name is Osama. I live in Jericho now. I was born in Jerusalem, in a village called Silwan, East Jerusalem. And when I was since I was kid, I started to hear stories about the Jewish people. Who are the Jewish people? The Jewish people who are the ones who took the house of my grandmother and kicked her out from her village, and they attacked them during the night. And it was a lot of fears and traumas and memories about her village and the olives and everything. Yeah, since then I'm scared of the Jewish people. I don't see them usually. I don't meet them usually, but they are scary. Then I started to hear more. The rest of my family, all of them are refugees, because after 67 war, they went to Jordan and they were not allowed to come back. Yeah. When I was 8 years old, my father moved to work outside Jerusalem for some years, and we had house in Jericho to go and come back. And there is law in Jerusalem, if you don't live in Jerusalem for more than 5 years, Jerusalem can, the municipality or the country can cancel your residency. And this law only for Arabs. So my father lost his residency. We moved to Jericho. Actually, for me, nothing changed in my life by moving from here to here, just small town and a flat street. It was even nicer to me. Then I started to go to school and I started to see this. That was in the end of the 80s, and I started to see soldiers in front of my school. Usually they are on the top of one of the houses on the other side of the street, but sometimes they are in the street, and I used to be terrified to go to the school when they are there. So sometimes I go back, sometimes I pass with the friends. Once they stopped me and I was terrified because I haven't understand anything they said to me. Like, for me, they were, the Western white people who doesn't speak my language, and they are not there to protect me, not there to take care of me. They are not just controlling me. Yeah, and I was always afraid of them. During when we used to go to school, actually, inside the school, when we go to school, some students throw stones at these soldiers when they are on the roof or they are standing outside, and immediately they target the school by tear gas. So we have to run from the other side. And 18 years old kids carrying weapons. And that was the daily game. Sometimes we throw stones just to go back home because they don't want to study, for example. And it works like kids' game. But it was, for me as a child, it was really terrifying to go back every day carrying onions in my hand, put it like against my nose because they told us onions help from the tear gas. It's very, like, it could burn. And yeah, and running every day back home. My mom used to hide me under the bed if soldiers are chasing any students. Yeah, with all these fears, I grew up, and I always used to think these are the Jewish people, and that's it. This is the only way I have seen them in my life. Few months after, the army commander decided to close all our schools because we live under military rules, so the army can't take decisions for anything in our life. So they did close the schools, and I was very happy not to go to school. But things didn't change. Every day demonstrations in the streets, the army come throwing stones, sometimes in the night, sometimes in the day. You don't know when to. We are not allowed to go out of the house to play. There is no theaters, no playgrounds, nothing. Everything is closed. Violence every day in the streets. Even when there were no soldiers, we used to play as the children. We used to play the soldiers and the Palestinians. So God is carrying piece of wood and we throw stones at them. Yeah, after I started to feel like when I was 14, I started to feel like I want to do something against these soldiers, like everyone else. So yeah, I started with my friends to buy spray color and write graffiti on the walls, and it was like first time I wrote Free Palestine, and it was very, I felt very happy about it, even though I did not know what is Palestine and I did not resist for Palestine, to be honest. And like, it wasn't for Palestine, it was something to trigger this soldier. Yeah, after I started also to think about building up or making a Palestinian flag, it was forbidden by then. So we did build the Palestinian flag and we raised it on one of the trees in the neighborhood for 3 weeks. It was amazing to see this flag, which was upside down in the end because we didn't know how to put the flag even. But it was enough to arrest us under the law of administrative detention. Administrative detention means that because we live under military rules, the army commander can put any Palestinian in jail from 1 day up to 3 years without trial. Just for, they will write there for security reasons. And in the best case, if I go to the court, it will be a military court where the army commander is the judge. So this system, so we were arrested, and in Israeli jail, I learned everything bad about Jews. Because the education there is only one narrative, your narrative. You are the right one, you are the holy one, you are the best, you are the salt of the earth, they are the colonizers, they came, they killed us. Like all these things, I did not know it before. Not from schools, as they try to tell people, and not from my parents, and no one told me not about Nakba and more than my grandmother's stories. Yeah, and I went out more violent with myself, with my sisters, with the trees, throwing stones, everything. And I was a grumpy boy trying to show up because you need to survive the situation. And I became someone else from the good student, basketball player, whatever. I became like someone who's really violent and just want to fight. Even my school, I didn't do the same like before. Yeah, and I was throwing stones again and again, and we were detained, but we were released because they started to talk about peace agreement, Oslo agreement. Actually, when I went out, I saw a lot of Palestinian flags everywhere in Jericho by then, because it was Jericho, Gaza first. And I saw Palestinians celebrating in the streets. Thousands of Palestinians are making like bands, all the roofs of the city center. People are sharing food, dancing in the streets, dabka and everything, celebrating the peace. And I was, wow, this is amazing. I can see the flag here. We can raise it. There is no soldiers in my city. I can leave the house after sunset. I can feel free to run during the night. That's amazing. I want to support this peace. They told me it's only 20% of our homeland. I said, who cares? I want to live safe. I want to go to university, my children to grow as artists, as architects, as players, as dancers, and not to pass through the same trauma that I lived through. Don't want them to go to jail and be violent. Yeah, so I supported the peace agreement and I volunteered in the Palestinian police for like 4 years. And yeah, and after 4 years, I started to somehow realize that this peace is not really peace. It's like pieces, and the settlers are like growing in my piece. And you can't negotiate with someone who says what mine is mine and what yours is negotiable. And always the negotiations about our piece, which is the 20%, either about Jordan Valley or about East Jerusalem or about the water or about the borders, or like there is nothing to negotiate in Haifa and Jaffa anymore. It's only our side. And they are not stopping building, creating new realities that doesn't show me in the future you'll have peace. So yeah, I was disappointed and I left the police and I was looking for somehow to join the resistance again. 2001, I was in internet cafe. Special units came by Palestinian taxis. They were outside, and shouting. I tried to look outside and I saw Palestinian women, full dressed black, with M16 in their hands, shooting. I did not speak Hebrew by then, but I remember what they said in Hebrew. And actually, when I learned Hebrew, I understood it after. He said, Al tazuz mi yazuz nufel. And yeah, so and I saw people are dying, like 3 people were bleeding, dying in front of me, and I never seen such thing in my life. People are dying. This one is crying. This one, I don't know them. I know one of them because he was selling falafel there. Yeah, and we were arrested for 3 days. They took us to a place called Machane Nipo, next to Jericho, and like next to Der Hajla. I felt good to see the cross of the church over there because I knew where I am. Yeah, and we were like handcuffed, blindfold for 3 days in basketball space, taking us in and out after they released us. And yeah, and I felt really in danger and really not important, and no one really cares about who I am. And if I'm guilty or not guilty, I could be shot and killed by mistake, and no one will pay any price. So if I'm dying anyway, I'm gonna die as a brave, strong fighter. Yeah, I joined the resistance again in many ways, and somehow a lot of people were killed. A lot of my friends were killed. A lot of them were arrested. Some they still in jail. Somehow I wasn't until 2007. Then the Palestinian Authority and the Israelis and the Americans decided to negotiate again and stop all kinds of resistance. So we were forced by the Palestinian Authority. That's it, we're gonna stop there. Yeah, and I was looking for something new. I went back to education, to the college, to the university, to the college. Yeah, and I was thinking, what's coming now? 2010, I was in Bethlehem. I met one of my friends who was fighting before, and I asked him to take me a ride because it was snowing. And he said, yes, I'm gonna take you a ride, but I'm going to meet people in Everest Hotel, which is very close to Hargilo, if you know the place. And we're gonna have warm dinner. So I went with him, and he told me that we are going to meet peace activists. And I was excited to see how peace activists look like. I never met them in my life, and what language they speak. I went to this place, to Everest Hotel, and I entered the room because I was excited. I entered the room even before Ahmad, and I looked and I saw a guy sitting there with kippah. So I stepped back immediately and I said, Ahmad, this is not our room. And he said, why? I said, because there are Jews there. He said, he looked in and I said, it is our room. Yeah, there are Jews there. I said, what do you mean? They told me peace activists. He said, yeah, some Jews are peace activists. And I lost it. I was out of my mind. How come you call Jews peace activists? How come they can be for peace? And he said, what do you mean? Like we had conversation, I was very mad. I said, man, since we signed for peace, they are confiscating lands piece by piece. And they even killed their own prime minister because he signed for peace, and they violate the international law every day, and you still call them for peace? This is stupid. Yeah, and I went out mad and smoking, waiting for my friend to come and go back home. Suddenly, I heard she was speaking Hebrew, and I did not speak Hebrew by then, but suddenly I heard someone translating, a woman called Yafa Sulaimani or Java Sulaimani, saying, I am Jewish, I am Zionist, I believe we have the right to exist, and I believe we have the right to have our own country, but I believe what we are doing with this military occupation is just not right, and we are using an iron fist on other people, other civilians, and this is not part of my belief, and I will fight against this. And I was surprised. I was like, what? How come there is Jewish person who cares about my existence? How come there are good people there? How come how come Israel never showed me these people? They always showed me soldiers, guards, people with weapons, people with violence. They never showed me this side of Judaism. I did not believe it, and I went back really curious. How come I never heard this way? How come there are Israelis or Jewish people who are fighting for my rights as a human being? It was too much for me to accept it. After 3 months, I decided to check again if that's right or not. I went to different place where I met a group of people. One of them is Israeli pilot who refused to serve in Gaza, and group of Israeli pilots actually they decided to sign a letter back then, I think in 2009 or 10, that they are not going to kill civilians, and this is not part of their training, and they don't accept it. And I was surprised again, and then I started to listen to their narrative, to the Israeli people narrative, to the Holocaust, to what happened to the Jewish people and the Arab countries to what happened to them during the history and what is Judaism and what's the narrative of the Jewish people. And yeah, and I felt shame. I felt shame because like people, they recognize my narrative and they are willing to fight for my narrative and my existence as a human being, and I still don't accept them or don't see them. And that what changes me. It's not the weapons, it's not the jail, it's not the forces. For me, by then when I was fighting, death was, to be honest, to just to put you in the mind of someone fighting without any hope in the future, it was the freedom. Death was the freedom. I was waiting for the freedom, but I won't take it because that's not accepted in Islam, but I was really welcoming it because I am not free anyway. And it's much better than being arrested for 25 or 30 years. Yeah, so from there I started to listen more and to accept the other people's narrative and to teach them about my narrative and to teach myself about the both narratives. And I started to fly around the world, even though my passport is not the same like the settler who's living 5 minutes away from me. Yeah, different passports, different language, different tribes, different nationalities, different God, different everything. And yeah, and I took visa for the first time and I went to Europe and I was in concentration camps in Berlin and Sachsenhausen and I saw what happened over there and I find myself just I can't like even though I am a Gever Arabi like Arab man and I'm not allowed to cry but I couldn't hold my tears and I was surprised how come I'm crying for the Jewish people. And I started to understand how when you just how when you get out of your agenda and traumas and see and recognize other people as a human being, it's gonna hurt you too. Yeah. Yeah, and since then I learned Hebrew and I created a group with my Israeli friends called Visit Palestine to explain to the Israeli people what it means to live under military rules, what it means to live without rights, to show them that no one is waking up in the morning, sharpening their knives, dreaming about meeting Jewish person somewhere. And, we mostly work with Israelis. We meet in most of the highways. We meet in West Bank every day you drive with Israelis. You see them. We go to the most of the beaches together and they don't show this in the TVs. They show you only if one attack happened every 10 years and they make reason to take more lands and put more security and build more settlements. And to show them that also there is discrimination. It's not even part of Judaism to discriminate people according to their religion. Yeah, to give no matter where the Jewish person live, he or she will have full rights, citizenship. We have rights according to our geographic place. If you're living inside Israel, if you live in Jerusalem, or you live in West Bank, or you live in Gaza. But Jews everywhere, they have the same rights, and that's not right. And we don't have the right to vote, we don't have airport, we don't have borders, we don't have services, and this is not because you are Jewish. I will fight the Prophet of Islam if Islam really force these rules on me. And yeah, just to show them that situation creating people who are haters and creating fighters and creating people who gonna hate Judaism without knowing it. They're gonna hate the Jewish people because they don't know them. Yeah, and I started to bring Palestinians and Israelis together all the time together to sit and talk because when you meet, you start to see each other as human beings. Yeah, and to talk about these things and mostly how we can make this place better. how we can fight together instead of fighting each other to make it better for everyone. Yeah, and that's how I arrived here today. Thank you.
Um, Yeah, so a completely different story. I was born in the Israeli side, small village not far from Tel Aviv. And I didn't know any Palestinian as a child, not as a teenager. We were only Jews in my village. In my school, there were only Jews. And it was maybe around 2000, the second Intifada. I was 10 years old when I started to hear about suicide attacks. Every week, buses are being exploded by the Palestinians. But I don't know Palestinians. So I started to be terrified from Palestinians. And because they don't teach us Arabic in schools, I couldn't understand the word in Arabic. And if I took the bus from place to place and someone spoke Arabic next to me, I was terrified because I don't know what might happen. And many times I chose to leave the bus before the destination. And in Israel, I think like the indoctrination of what it means to be Israeli, it starts from a very, very young age. And mostly, I think, through the National Remembrance Day. So every year, we hold ceremonies all around the country, and we invite the soldiers to participate in these ceremonies. And I remember as a child, soldiers entering my school with full uniform and long weapons, and to see how much the teachers respect and appreciate these soldiers year after year, the same ritual. I started somehow to internalize the fact that when I will be 18 years old, I will become this soldier. And I will be respected and appreciated like these soldiers. And I didn't know back then anyone who chose to refuse. There was no exception to this rule. So for me, it's like university. When Israelis finish high school, we go to the army. This is the next stage in life. And it was as if it is nature, kind of like this is nature. This is how it works. Later, my mom, she started to take me to her own ceremony because her cousin was killed as a soldier. And again, same scenario of soldiers from his unit entering the graveyard. But this time my mom is giving love and respect to these soldiers. Again, year after year, the same ritual of my mom hugging them and saying how much she appreciates them. And I started to have this motivation to become a soldier in this specific unit, like the cousin of my mom who was killed. And I was always told that he was the hero of the family. He sacrificed his life so we can live safely in our homeland. And I wanted to be a hero like him. I wanted to be loved by my mother like him. I wanted to be part of this collective. And it was very clear for me at this age that the only way to be part of this collective is by going to serve in the Israeli army. Again, there were no exceptions to this. And I also started to understand that actually it might help me later in life. If I will go and serve in the best units, then I will be rewarded by the society, and it will be easier for me to find jobs, maybe to be accepted to university, etc. So at the age of 17, we traveled to Poland with the school to see the death camps and to learn about the Holocaust. Very intense and very nationalistic experience. It was all about Israel and the Israeli flags. And I came back from this trip convinced that we Jews cannot trust anyone to support us, to protect us. we have to do it ourselves. And if we'll not go as a collective to serve in the Israeli army the next year, when we will be 18 years old, history might repeat itself. So I came back, I decided, like many of my friends, to join these groups that prepares you to the army service. Very motivated to give my part for the collective, to sacrifice for the collective, and to protect my people. And after a year, I was 18 years old, I was recruited to pilot course. And after a year in pilot course, I was moved to this unit where the cousin of my mom used to serve, who was killed. And the reactions from all my friends, all my family, the people in my school, the teachers were so supportive. I was convinced I'm doing the most important thing I can do in my life by going to serve in this unit. And I remember back then I didn't have second thoughts about it. Like, it felt very good. I felt, wow, I'm proud of myself, actually. And after 2 years of army trainings in this unit, my team was taken to a Palestinian village in the West Bank. And it was actually the first time I crossed the wall to the West Bank, because my father always used to tell me, it's dangerous there, there is occupation, settlers, it's dangerous for us Israelis, and you shouldn't go there. And the first time with my team, middle of the night, we crossed this village by foot. And at the center of the village, the commander asked me and another friend, Nevo, to take shock grenades and to throw them into one of the yards. And I just followed the order. I threw the grenade, a big boom, then silence again, everyone in the homes, no one in the street. And on the way back to the base, suddenly Nevo called me and he said, you know, Rotem, I think we shouldn't do such things. And I agreed, there was no immediate danger. I was a bit like confused, how come I didn't think about it myself? And then the commander came, he heard us talking about it, and he basically told us, guys, you're soldiers, you do what you're told to do, and this is the end of the conversation, I don't want to hear about this anymore. And we were good soldiers, we put a lot of effort to be soldiers, to be accepted to this unit, so we just closed our mouth and we didn't speak about it. But somehow it stayed in the back of my mind this night. I felt I wasn't aligned with the mission. A year later, I was released from the Israeli army after 3 years of mandatory service. Luckily, these years were relatively quiet. I didn't have to fight, to shoot anyone. I wasn't traumatized. But I was very much programmed to be a soldier. I even would say to be a robot. And I felt that I would love to deprogram myself from this mindset of a soldier. And I felt inside that it will be difficult to do this process on the land in Israel, because society is so militarized and the army is a taboo. And once you start to ask questions and to challenge the narrative, you will be the traitor, the naive, and you will be quite fast excluded from the collective. So I decided to use my privilege passport. Compared to the Palestinians, we can travel quite freely, like many other Israelis, to go and to see other places. And I started to think about the service and what I was doing and what is happening, but I didn't have the whole picture of what is happening. And I came back to Israel to start medical school in Be'er Sheva, when I met a friend who told me that he's going to Germany to participate in a dialogue program with Palestinians from the West Bank. And I was, wow, Palestinians from the West Bank, it's possible to meet Palestinians from the West Bank, because I always told my society, it's dangerous there. You shouldn't go there. They might hurt you if they just know that you're Israeli. And suddenly I have the opportunity to go and meet them in Germany. And I was excited and I decided to join because, again, I had many questions in my mind already, like about what is happening. And there in Germany, it was 12 years ago, I heard a story that I've never heard before. I met a group of 20 Palestinians. Most of them were born and raised in refugee camps all around the West Bank. And they were talking about the Nakba. But I've never heard this word before, Nakba. So they explained to me that Nakba, it means catastrophe in Arabic. And this term the Palestinians used to describe what happened to them in 1948 when the Jewish state was established. They said that 400 villages were destroyed completely and 2/3 of the Palestinian population were expelled from their homes to refugee camps in Gaza, all around the West Bank, in Jordan, in Lebanon, in Syria. And that Jewish refugees came and took over the homes that were not destroyed. And at the beginning, it was difficult to believe because it didn't make sense. Why did I have to go all the way to Germany to learn about the history of my homeland? I lived there all my life. It just didn't make sense. How is it possible that I have never heard about refugee camps, about Nakba? But they were sharing their stories with so much tears and emotions. And many of them even brought the keys their grandparents gave them for the houses that have been lost. So I just couldn't stay indifferent to these stories and to these people, because somehow I connected to them on a very human level. Like we became friends and I just felt their pain and it was impossible to go back. And what was mainly painful, I think, was the fact to start to realize that first the huge gap in the narratives, like how I was born and raised and how they are born and raised. And second, that we Israelis, we celebrate our independence exactly the same day they mourn their catastrophe. And they told me, like, you know, we see you celebrate parties, barbecue, music, fireworks in Independence Day. But for us, we feel it's as if you celebrate our catastrophe. And I wasn't aware even to their catastrophe. And I felt shame. I felt very bad, like to realize that, yeah, I was so much disconnected from my neighbors. I didn't know anything about them. I was so ignorant about their story. And I came back to the land and I was trying to talk to my family, my friends about this experience in Germany. And it was very, very painful to realize that most of the people are not willing to speak about it. They were very intimidated, very defensive, had many excuses why they ran away. We didn't expel them, they ran away. Why we had to, because they want to exterminate us. Many, many excuses. And for me, I felt as if I lost my support system, as if no one is willing to listen anymore to my pain. And I was looking for new people. Actually, this feeling of loneliness, it's not unique, it's not new. Every Israeli person who will decide to open his eyes to reality will have the same journey of feeling lonely, realizing that society is not there anymore to support him, and then you have to look for alternative ways to support yourself or alternative community. And I was lucky, I started to go to demonstrations, to peace activities. I found activists, Israelis and Palestinians, who first understand that we have to first acknowledge the catastrophes of each other. And as long as we ignore the narrative of the other side and taking responsibility of our part in this catastrophe, we cannot move forward. We cannot have reconciliation while there is still like first the trauma and the Nakba is still going on. Like it has never really stopped. Like these practices of ethnic cleansing, it's still until these days happening in Gaza, in the West Bank, and also inside Israel, actually, in the Negev with the Bedouins, in the mixed cities with like racist laws that are aiming to basically expel Palestinians from their homes. Doesn't matter if they live where they live in between the river and the sea, there are the same or similar practices. And then after more time, I suddenly met Palestinians from the West Bank. And they became my friends. And I decided to move to the West Bank to live with them in this town in the West Bank next to Bethlehem. And this journey to the other side of the wall changed my life. First, because I crossed the wall this time not as a soldier with a weapon, but as a human being who is trying to get to know his neighbors, to understand their culture, their language, and the reality, how it feels to live under military occupation all your life. And after time, like few months in this village, I started to understand Arabic. And it changed my whole perspective. First, I wasn't terrified as much as I used to be from this language, from this culture, because I could realize they are not planning to attack me. They just talk about daily issues. And second, I stopped seeing them as potential threats, like I was told by my society from very early age. I started to see them as potential friends, community, colleagues, lovers. And yeah, suddenly, like I was living on the other side of the wall. This wall, I was told by my society that it is there to protect me, but I felt much more protected on the other side in the way I felt all my life in my hometown on the other side. And it was like a mindfuck. Like I just couldn't, and I couldn't even explain to my friends on the other side of the world, to the Israelis, what I'm going through, because everyone thought I lost my mind. They told me, "Are you crazy? You moved to live on the West Bank with Palestinians?" It just, their minds couldn't really conceive this idea. Yeah, and since then, like I try to somehow spread this message that the wall doesn't protect us and the weapons will not protect us. And what we need actually is we need to take down the wall and we need to meet and we need to build trust. It's a long process, but this is what is needed. Weapons and army cannot solve this conflict. We need to become part of this region. As long as we live as Israelis in security cages, we'll never be safe. And it's a long process, but this is what is needed. And yeah, I hope that it can inspire some people to support a different direction. And we are here to also talk to Americans, to explain to them that the weapons that they send us will not protect us. And we don't need weapons, we need therapists. We need to support us in building a society that is based on equality, on freedom, on shared life, that we need to live together. We cannot, this like segregation is not a solution for this conflict. we are too much living inside of each other. Now, even with the settlers in the West Bank, like who will bring these settlers back? It will be a bloodshed. It will be a disaster. We need to change the strategy completely, I think. Yeah, thank you.
So we can answer questions, I can answer questions, but before that, I just wanted to say, and to pass these around while we do the Q&A, that Osama and Rotem are not, they're not, backed by an organization, or their whole tour in 6 months in Germany, and now whatever, how many months you'll be in the US is completely self-funded, basically, or, funded by us, to make it sustainable and something that they can continue doing. And they give these talks every evening. I don't know how you do it. It's really amazing. So I'll pass these around. And which one of them is the?
So you have the GoFundMe and you have the Instagram pages. Yeah, and the email, if you want to spread the email, if people want to invite us to have more talks. I think at least end of October. Yeah.
And we might bring them back to Princeton for a university organized event in October.
What do you stay with?
People's homes, mostly. Somehow in Germany it was more organized, and they have like these peace organizations in every town, so they could fund it. And here we're a bit lost, actually. So yeah.
Yes, why you are not part of any organization? There are organizations, I don't know, within the Yachad,
Yeah.
and I hear your story, that your story is one of hundreds in making the silence, of soldiers that first time going to the West Bank and do whatever, and then they kind of understand it.
Yeah. So first, there are similarities in the stories, like breaking the silence. Maybe what's similar is the part of being a soldier in the West Bank. I believe the second part of like challenging the segregation and going to live on the other side is different, and organizations like breaking the silence, like standing together, they don't speak about the vision of how to live together. Standing together is about Palestinians, Israelis, and Jewish Israelis. Osama is a Palestinian from the West Bank. He doesn't have citizenship. He doesn't have even residency. He lives under military rule. So his reality is completely different to the one of standing together activists. And both of us, I think what is different maybe is the fact that we somehow managed to go and live with the other side. Osama lived with the Israelis for years, and he knows the language and understand the culture. And I lived in the Palestinian side, and somehow this journey changes your perspective about the future also. And I think we talk about it, about how to challenge the for now I would call it like the Jewish supremacist system. Like the Jews are the owners and those who are in power on all the land between the river and the sea. And we believe that, like, for me at least, two-state solution, as long as it doesn't challenge this supremacy, it's not a solution, and it will not end the violence. And I think we should think a bit beyond these things. I've never heard like breaking the silence, even standing together, talking about this vision of how yeah. So this, yeah, but we are two people. We are not trying to sell a specific political solution. For me, it's a bit like it's a distraction actually, because there are many solutions. You can find many solutions. It's more about the values for me. You can implement a solution in two-state solution, or in one state, or in this, yeah, but it's more about the values, what we need to implement in order to end the violence. We need to end the supremacy, we need equality, we need freedom for all. And I don't want to distract people to believe that only this solution might, because then people start fighting over the solutions instead of uniting. We need to unite. This is the time to unite, to put pressure on the system, to force it to change. And if all of us will start fighting over this or that solution, for me, like, it's not the time.
That's the question. I really loved what you said about we don't need weapons, we need healers, we need therapists, we need to get over the trauma. I mean, not get over, process the trauma, learn to live with the trauma, learn to forgive, learn to take responsibility for our side and someone else's trauma. So first of all, thank you for that. And what I wanted to ask is, how did you two meet, and what prompted this specific tour? Because you started this after the war started. Yeah, so I'm curious about the story about what made you think, okay, we're going to change the world ourselves. And yeah.
So Rotem and I met 7 years ago as part of organization. Well, we were both part of organization called Combatants for Peace, and we met. We usually go to give talks to either to Palestinian youth or to pre-army schools or to Israeli youth, explaining to them what's the situation and how it's possible to meet as human beings with the other side. Yeah, so because I am not allowed to drive, Rotem back in 90% of the country. Yeah, so Rotem picked me up and drove me to the north, and we came back together. Actually, it was good ride until the car stopped in the middle of the way, and I have to push on the highway. That is one of my experiences in Israel. Yeah, and since then, actually, we somehow met in many circles, not only the political work circles, but I found Rotem in many like trauma healing circles, different kind of meditation circles, kind of Israeli and Palestinians camping circles. Most of the circles I am in, Rotem, we met in these circles, and during COVID, he came to live in Jericho with us, so that makes us closer. But we supposed to leave in 16th of October. We had tour in Germany like for 2 weeks before the war started, and we committed to 2 weeks to come. And we went to Germany after the war, and 16th of October, and from there we find out that Germans are lost and don't know what's the difference between Palestinians and Israelis, and occupation and anti-Semitism and all these things. Like they are just listening to their news, and we couldn't just go back while people are dying, and that's what we are doing right now here. For me, I left my kids, my family, my work, my business, my income, because I couldn't do anything there. It's like to practice my normal daily life while people are dying. It was very tough to me, especially this war. Especially this war, because this is the first time that I feel the pain of everyone, because I lived with Israelis, I healed with Israelis, I speak Israeli, not even Hebrew, but of course I'm not Israeli, and I will never be Israeli because I'm not chosen enough. But I feel, I understand, I lived in their homes, I met their kids who came back from the army. I know these kids are not evil. I know they are victims of a system that just create fears on both sides to sacrifice these kids for their systems and for their beliefs. And when I see the mothers on both sides. I don't know which one I feel sad for. Usually I used to celebrate one side. I used to feel relieved when I hurt the enemy. But now I don't feel I have enemy. They are all human beings, and it hurts me even double. So I decided to stay around. And yeah, and Rotem actually helped a lot in this process because he was my partner. He knows what's going on. He did all the contacts with the people in order to keep spreading our message in Germany. And yeah, and after we decided to come to America and or to United States. Yeah, and to continue doing this as much as we can, and we promise that we will not continue after the occupation end. So we are not trying to be big organization or big business. We are just trying to do something because it's gonna be shame to be asked. I'm sure one day after 20 years, 10 years, 50 years, 60 years, people will live somehow because we can't be idiots forever. Yeah, and that's what happened everywhere in the world. And there is no conflict like in America and Australia and wherever people were discriminated according to their whatever, and then they find way to live together. That's the only way. But how many people gonna die by then? And if I stay alive, I don't want my grandchildren to ask me, what did you do while people were killing each other, and to say I was silent. Yeah, because for me, silent is violent.
Okay, I'll take it. I first want to thank Yael. She's a local leader that is doing this program for so long, and thank you, Yael. I want to thank you guys for doing what you're doing because, you know, it's like global warming is it start locally, and this is what you do. You just up the car and start hitting the road and talk to people. So, and I also want to compliment. I just finished a very good the name you guys, and I think I know all the stories, and you know I went through the Israeli story, and you know I also went to you know changing narratives and stuff like that. And you're doing a fantastic way of telling your story. So it's a lot more effective when you hear it in place. I have a question for each of you. If you can tell us a little bit about the life in Jericho, and I know it's illegal now that I read the book, and I know before that it's illegal to cross, and what do you do there? How do you work? How do you do that? And the question to you, Sama, is if you can give us a
You
little.
ask him about Jericho?
Yeah, him about because he
He
you live
yes.
you live illegally in the
Okay.
occupied territories.
Yeah.
And for you, Osama, is if you can kind of give us a sneak peek into the Palestinian society and tell us what they think now, and if you can go into the resolution of what's the difference between anti-Semitism, anti-Judaism, anti-Israelism, anti-Americanism, or is it just one big name and it's all inclusive?
So I wasn't registered in Jericho or in Bejala as a resident. It was under the radar. I used to live with my friends, but like the society, the system, no one really knew about it. I believe the Israelis knew actually because I think they followed the telephones but somehow they didn't care enough, seems like. But it's not allowed for Israelis to enter the Palestinian cities, Area A. So yeah, a few times like I had incidents with the Palestinian Authority, checkpoints, but normally if you don't have like a Israeli flag on your car or if you don't wear a kippah, you are safe. no one will come and attack you or anything. And this is something that I realized with time, how much I am moved by fear, and how much this fear is not actually in alliance with the reality. But it's not safe to go inside these places with Israeli flag, of course not. But for me, I was like a normal human being, you know, I wasn't identifying as an Israeli. I was with my friends. I used to meet new people mostly with my friends or friends of friends. And this created a very safe space where I can speak Arabic, where I can get to know people and they trust me because they trust my friends. And once you speak and once you get to know and once you say what you believe in, once you recognize the other side, then it's very easy to create connection actually. And maybe the language helped me a lot, maybe my political view helped me. But for me, it was very easy actually to create new friendships.
Yeah, but you're not gonna walk to Jenin without friends that knows you local and say, you know, he's
True.
my friend.
Yeah.
You're not gonna do that.
To Jenin, no. To Jericho, to Ramallah, to Bethlehem, I will. I do it every time. To Jenin, maybe no.
But if an Arab moved to an Israeli village,
Yeah.
even with friends, you know, our Shin Bet is gonna be there in no time. They're gonna check out what's going on.
Oh, yeah, but you talk now after October 7th, because before October 7th, I mean, I live in the Moshav. A lot of West Bank people come every day.
Every day, but not live there, not stay there.
Some of them stay, it's not legal, but they are in a safe environment, everyone knows them. Unfortunately, you know, since this war, don't let anyone go,
Yeah.
but that's the way that I got to know people from the West Bank, yes. Only people that came in to war.
I want to say it's the same actually, not as much, but it's the same for me, and it's only in our heads. For me, I was never imagine like until 15 years ago, I did not know what is Tel Aviv or where is Tel Aviv or where is the beach or where is, anything. And then when I started to go, I was always afraid to go by myself. So with my friends only by cars all the way there. And then when I learned the language and I started to know the people, I started to see them as human beings, not as enemies. So I released the fears in me. And usually people see you the way you see yourself. Yeah. And I started to walk even without permission. Yeah. For the last 5 years, without permit. I used to jump in the bus at Dead Sea. Yeah. Look more Western than Palestinian, take off the horns and the tail. Yeah, and just to drive with Egged buses to Tel Aviv, to everywhere, no one ever checked me. Yeah, it's fears in our heads, and it's the way you look, also. If you and Jericho, for example, it's a touristic city. We have 3,000 villas, Airbnb, a lot of Israeli Arabs, they come to Jericho or Palestine. They come to Jericho with their big cars with big Hebrew signs, and it's people are.
They used to have the casino there.
It used to be, I know. So Jericho is easy like other countries. But what about the Palestinian society? How they think? I want you to understand a few things. First, I will start from here. This anti-Semitism thing is not ours. It's not our invention. It's not part of our culture. It was made in Germany, and Germans want to give it to us as because of their shame and because of their guilt. As a kid, since I was little, if I want to talk about anti-Semitism now, since I was little, since I started to learn about Islam, they teach us 5 things. The basic rules or the roots of Islam, Al-Iman billah. You have to believe in God and his books and his prophets and Yom Adin and Al-Qada al-Qadar, al-Quran, everything, yeah? But you have to believe in God and his books and his prophets. What that means? It means if I don't accept Judaism as a religion from God and I don't accept Moses as a prophet of God, I can't be Muslim. Yeah, it's the rules of Islam. Okay, this is one. Second, we have most of our holidays is somehow connected to the Jewish people. Like, we don't know this, of course, like Chag HaQurban. They do it after the Hajj, they sacrifice goat or whatever. Why? Where did the Muslims learn this from? From when Abraham wanted to sacrifice Isaac and God gave him instead. So to thank God for giving goat to sacrifice instead of Isaac, the prophet of the Jewish people, we do big holiday. It's our biggest holiday. We have also Ashura for like we have Ashura, which is one day we fast because when Moses was passed Yam Suf from Pharaoh, yeah. So we fast one day. It's called Yom Ashura, and it's mostly do with the Shia, not the Sunni, actually. So this anti-Semitism is not part, yeah, and until Zionism started in the Arab world, Jews were safe in the Arab world more than any other places in the world. My great-grandmother named Sarah Mizrahi, yeah, and they were Palestinian Jews and they were living there and no one was attacking Jews. They did in Hebron in 29 because when Balfour started, when the whole story started, but yeah, the enemy started between Jews and Muslims, I think, since Zionism started. Most of the Palestinians do not know, to be honest with you, what is the difference between Zionist and Jew. They don't know. They, in Gaza, if you listen now to the news in Gaza, all of the kids, the elders, the Jews killed us, the Jews killed my son, the Jews bombed our house, the Jews did, the Jews, let the Jews be happy for what happened to us. That's what the Jews want. They don't say Israel, because Israel is doing their best to represent Judaism. They are taking the name, the title, we are a representative of the Jewish people, and we can do this under the name of the Jewish people. So that's the thing. They don't know what is Judaism and Zionism and whatever. They are against the title for them, which is the Jews. And most the educated Palestinians, the people who are really know what is this and that, they are against Zionism. And if you talk to any of them, even the hardcore ones, the Hamas ones, they will say, we don't have any problem with Judaism. We have problem with Zionism. Yeah, and you know, this is not how people see the situation. They see Jews are their enemies because they are occupying us. And actually, what's happening there, and I wanna just that's what makes me feel sometimes sad about the situation, that we don't understand what's going on. Especially with my Israeli friends, either they go all the way to anti-Israel, or they go all the way, you know, with Israel. No one want really sometimes to see the situation as it is, especially after 7th of October. People don't understand what's going on in West Bank, and that's what's keeping us. First, settlements are taking over every hope, or any hope in the future. Second, since they built the wall mostly in West Bank. Behind this wall, there are hectares of Palestinian people lands. And these hectares, people can't go into their lands, yeah, to farm it without permit. And sometimes they don't give them permits. And sometimes they have to wait hours. So they prefer not to go. And Israel, there is law in Israel, if you don't farm your land for more than 3 years, Israel can confiscate it. Then they take their land and they build settlement and they call it land of the country because it was confiscated. So that's the system is working to keep us enemies. And I wonder, imagine, you know, in Israel, no matter if they're right, wrong, I don't care who came here before, 2,000 years, 1,000 years. This is story of the chicken and the egg, it's done with me. I don't care who was there first. I care that now we are living there. 3 generations, 4 generations were born and raised on the land, it's their homeland. How they gonna live? We're gonna continue the way of our great grandfather 80 years ago, or we're gonna at least understand that we are in 2024 and the world is changing and we are always talking about human rights, women rights, children rights, animals rights, environment rights, yeah? And at the same time, people are dying while we are watching this situation. Yeah, so what happened in West Bank? Every few years, that's what I see. And this year it was because I started to see the things bigger. For example, when Gantz was elected, that's where the circle of violence started. Yeah. Why? Because Gantz is an army commander. When he was elected, he started to invade the Palestinian cities every day, to kill 2, 3 armed people in every city. Like in Nablus, there were 5, Ibrahim and Nabilsi, and another 4, I know their names. They were shooting at the army when they come every day to Joseph Tomb, Kever Yusuf. And he wanted to kill them, so he tried a few times, sometimes by drones, sometimes by whatever, and some of them ran away, and they, step by step on TikTok, they became the idols of the Palestinian children, of all the Palestinian new generations. They are the heroes, carrying weapons, army sending 600 soldiers to kill them, they still succeed to run away. And even when they were dying, most of them, I can show you, they filmed themselves videos on TikTok and they send it to everyone. I am dying for Palestine. My mother, you have to be happy. And that's how you create most of just, if you count before Gantz, for 5 years, 6 years, there were no violence, mostly in West Bank. 1, 2, maybe. Gantz killed 350 Palestinians in 1 year without intifada before 7th of October in West Bank, not in Gaza. And then these groups started to be bigger, and then they started in Jenin and now in Tul Karim. And you see now, most of the Palestinian 16, 17 years old dream about carrying the weapon of someone else, or stealing weapon from the army, or doing anything, because that's all what they know. And this way, you can, of course, create enemies on the other side. And by creating enemies, you unite your people because they are in fears. It's the same. They are working the same system, same like in West Bank. It's the same. We need the enemy to be united. And that's what's happening. And I wonder how, imagine, why we always wonder what is the solution. Nothing works. We tried everything, nothing works, no. Actually, we have solution, and it works, and it's working right now. We have 2 million people who did not come from another planet. They are our brothers and sisters and cousins and our people and our families living inside Israel. They don't have rockets. They don't have M16. They don't have tunnels. Guess why? Because they have rights. Because they have what to lose. Because they have better life. Because they have better work. Because they have health insurance. Yeah. And that's the solution when you want to end wars and when you want to end hate and when you want to teach people something else, give them what to lose. When I live in violence environment where I don't have a future or even dreaming about the future, when I never traveled to see the world, my world was Jericho. That was my world. Look, now I'm Manhattan. I want ask to die. I won't go to violence and die again this time because I know the world is bigger than Israel, Palestine, and bigger than Jericho itself, and bigger than hating someone because of his religion. Because I was lucky somehow to see the world. And that's where I am telling the people, don't think the Palestinian youth know anything. They do not know. And that's why I don't compare them with the Israeli youth. The Israelis, after army, they go, they travel around the world, they have therapies, they have freedom, they have seas, they have beaches, they have airplanes, you know, they have more opportunities to open and to see the world. Our children, maximum, they go to Jordan, which is more traumatized than Palestine itself. Maximum. By giving people rights, they can go, they can fly, they can open, they can see, they can accept other people's narratives. Yeah. Sorry
Yeah,
for
so
being
I have
funny.
a little bit more of a practical question. It's actually two parts. Like what kind of places or gatherings would you most like to be speaking to? You know, for the rest of the time that you're staying here. You know, we belong to a congregation. It's not going to be quite as, you know, I feel like tonight you're preaching to the choir a little bit, if you know that American expression. So I also think it would be fantastic, you know, if you could get in front of some of the groups of the students demonstrating on campus. You know, I think the two of you have such a more complex view of the conflict than what I hear about from there. So those are two places I would love to see if, you know, we could help you. But I'm also very curious to know, in the places that you've spoken already, how much pushback have you gotten? Or do people really just, you know, accept and embrace what you have to say?
So the majority of the people, I would say 90%, accept and support and motivate us to continue. You always have either on the like Zionist side or the like pro-Palestinian side, like harsh, like resistance side. So they tell us that we are anti-Semites, the Zionists, and the pro-Palestinian will tell us that we are normalizers. But I also feel that we are effective with them. Like, even though one or two will call us normalizers and will say, on this side, all the Jews should go back to Europe, on this side, you are completely naive and they just want to, yeah. Still, I think we can reach their hearts and people are moved by us also from these groups. So we would love to, like, students for sure, because it's the future of the students, and the bigger the better. Like for me, I would love to meet big numbers of people. And yeah, it can be also synagogues who are not progressive. We know how to speak and to change the terminology so people can listen. Sometimes it's too much. If they are right-wing Zionists, might be too much, but for like mainstream people, I think it's still okay, you know.
Yeah.
No, because like some people don't want to listen to Palestinians. For them, like there is no Palestine, you know.
Yeah.
So
But it's more difficult for the Zionists to listen to you than to listen to Osama.
yeah.
This is a funny
True.
thing.
And on the vice versa as well. Like for Palestinians, they will blame him to be a normalizer, but it will be easier to accept me because I accept them. So it's always each side, each one of us is easier to speak to the other side.
Yeah, but actually, for me, I'm willing to speak to anyone, even the right-wing Zionists who don't want to. Like, if they don't want, they won't come. Whoever is willing to listen, just to listen, you know, we don't have to agree. Maybe we can agree not to agree. But anyone is willing to listen, I would love to talk, and I don't want really to keep convincing the convinced people about the same thing. I want to talk to these who don't agree with me.
Do you feel like the people that reach out is mostly people that already are informed a little bit? Or did you ever get a crowd that was clueless about both sides?
I think more the informed, yeah.
I
But
think
not always.
people willing to listen, because I met at Daniel Mate event, for example, I met a lot of Palestinians who are not really informed and not really. And in Germany, there were a lot of Palestinian Lebanese, Palestinian Syrians who were refugees. they never imagine that they're gonna listen to Israeli and accept Israeli and hug Israeli after the talk. But Rotem is
Huggable.
Honorary help.
Yeah.
I was actually
he's selling
there.
Israelis very well.
It's actually very nice, but I do feel like the energy is a little different because I do know that they have a bigger community of people, like, you know, Gabor Mate, and so here I feel like it's a little better. There's not a lot of people trying to attack or to prove points or, you know, so I wanted to bring her. That's why I came back. Yeah, and thank you.
Who's here?
Me? No, I'm a flight attendant and I've been to Tel Aviv numerous times and it's been my favorite destination when people tell me what's one of your favorite places. And it was a place that, which interesting, I felt my peace. And I'm Brazilian to make, I guess, contact. And so when October 7th happened, I had a lot of friends who were on the flight from New York into Tel Aviv, and I got messages from friends saying, we're about to go into war, and it shook me because now I have friends, and it's a city that I was already emotionally attached to. So for a long time, you know, it was more of being in the defensive, seeing what was happening, and just this week with the hostages that were killed, it did shake me as well, both sides. And it's kind of being able to be in the middle and look at both sides and say, feel helpless, to cry with the Israelis who are mourning this situation, their traumas, and looking at, I have a Palestinian friend who is a flight attendant and he commuted from Tel Aviv to New York, his wife and his 2 children. The first thing I did was, Rami, bring your wife, you guys can stay at my house. And they moved, they're now living in Atlanta and Georgia. So being able to look at both sides and kind of feel terrified because you understand one side, you understand the other. And there could be a solution, but with everything happening, you almost can't see a solution. And it's really scary to see a place that you love and that there's so much hate going on. That when you're walking, for me, in Israel and Tel Aviv, at least in Tel Aviv, just to feel like I love this place. Just sit there and just be like, wow, there's so much hate here. But there's this energy also here that for me, it was unlike many of the places that I've been. So with our conversations have always been every side and the other side. And for me, having so many close Jewish and Israeli friends and hearing their stories, I felt compassionate towards. And not that I didn't feel for the other, but having been to Tel Aviv, I felt a connection. So that's me.
I can relate to that. After spending last 10 years mostly in Tel Aviv, I am not saying bad people of Tel Aviv are bad people. I did not try to say the Israelis are evil. I did not try to say that we have to kill all of them and they are the reason of what's going on. I know there is a lot of places, amazing places in Tel Aviv. To be honest, okay, this is on Zoom, but I will say it. I feel more part in Bardes Khana, not in Tel Aviv, than any other places. You know, that's me, and I relate to this culture, and I have a lot of friends who helped me, hosted me. I went to many therapy places with them. I was accepted. I know the Israelis more than anyone else, and that's why I'm sad more, because the system is representing them to us first, since we are kids, as evil,
And you said something.
as enemies.
It was very important because you said they're being represented, the Jewish people and not Israel. So I feel like my Jewish friends, they are feeling attacked just for being Jewish and not being able to have a voice or feeling, not being able to say, hey, I'm Jewish without fear of being attacked. And I think there's this growing fear, at least with the group that I know, that if you say you're Jewish, you're automatically a Zionist and you have to defend yourself. And I feel, at least here in the United States with my American Jewish friends, and that's really, it's sad it's almost like when you said, with history repeating itself, and is, is this what we're doing? Like, you can't say you're Jewish because now you're Israeli and that you're agreeing with the war. It's not, I don't think anyone agrees with anyone dying,
Of course.
so.
I agree, and I agree that Israel should stop representing the Jewish people and call itself a Jewish state in the name of the Jewish people.
Absolutely.
I'm not the one who's endangering the Jewish people. Our friend, he did prayer, Israel. Israel, he did prayer for the kids of Gaza at the beginning of the war. He did prayer for all the kids, actually, not the kids of Gaza. What's the name of the prayer? I don't know. Shabbatot, whatever. Yeah. And for this prayer, the right wing attacked him in his house. Yeah. And he ran away to Portugal and he met Rotem and said to Rotem, I'm afraid to go out with kippah because I'm religious. So in Israel, he was attacked by the right wing and outside. And that's why I'm always telling Palestinians everywhere and here, even the Zionist, who believes that he's Zionist, I will accept. Because if someone is coming to check who are his neighbors and what is their life and what is their situation, and I, as the Palestinian, say to him, no, this is normalization, and push him away, it means I am pushing him away to go to his dark or his place. Yeah, I need to accept this. And usually peace happens between enemies, not between friends. And about Tel Aviv people, I'm sure they are good. Why I am a little bit don't agree with Tel Aviv people, because we are vegan, we are vegetarian, we don't eat meat, and and we go to serve in the army and the block Bethlehem. What right give to the Israelis, yeah, to occupy me and control my life for 55 years? I don't want to start, yeah, and then to play the victim when I attack back. You understand? For me, as Palestinian, you occupying me, building at my land, taking my water,
Closing your school.
people get killed during the last, what I know, from the first Intifada until today, I can count 100,000 Palestinians were killed. Not before this war, maybe. Yeah, and in the end, if I don't sit silent, I am the one who's bad, and I have to be silent under the violent in order to be accepted, and maybe they're gonna give me another piece of land or open another checkpoint. For example, at the same time, they are building a huge settlements. Since 48 until today, how many Palestinian cities for Arabs were built? Yeah? How many?
No.
Ask your friends in Tel Aviv. They don't know too. Not because they are bad people, because they don't care. Because their life is easy. Because they have dog and they have beach and they have fitness and they have income and they are working from the morning to the evening to be good people and to cover their costs and take care of their dog and their children. They don't know what's going on in West Bank. They pass to the Dead Sea. They don't know that I am there in Jericho, 5 minutes away. I promise. One of my friends said I passed. He's 50 years. Said every week I go to Eilat almost. Only now I recognize that Jericho there because he come to visit me. Yeah, that's the problem. I'm not saying they are bad people, but the ignorance, they don't see what's going on there. And of course, everyone get traumatized or want to be violence or whatever from us, and that's our mistake. Carry weapon and go to Tel Aviv to shoot people sitting in a coffee shop and create fears on the other side. And that's how the circle keep going.
So I passed around this book. It's really excellent. I'm in the middle of it. It's about combatants for peace and told from both sides. I wanted to recommend a few more sources of information for people. I mean, these aren't necessarily the only ones, but for Israelis, because for Hebrew speakers, because this one is in Hebrew, there are 8 excellent chapters about the history of Gaza in a podcast called Parot Kedoshot. Highly recommended, especially now with what's happening in Gaza. And it's the history told from the Israeli perspective, but it's a history that we don't know at all. The answer to how many cities inside Israel, not talking about the West Bank, is 0. I mean, one, Rahat, but it was made in order to displace people. It wasn't made in order to house
grow.
new people. And it's not only new cities, it's also train stations. There are zero train stations in Arab cities in Israel. Zero out of hundreds. So, so the story of Gaza, that's one. And another thing that I wanted to recommend in English is a podcast called Disillusioned. That's how I heard about Rotem, because Yahav, who makes that podcast, told me that Rotem, her friend, is here and we should make contact. It's Yahav is a young woman in Israel who interviews people on the side, Israelis mostly, not only, who are on the side of anti-Zionism, who have kind of moved to, we want to live together with everybody who's living between the river and the sea. But many stories, really excellent stories, and she does it in English so that it would be available to non-Hebrew speakers as well. So that's a really great podcast. I can't think of anything else right now in English or kind of the joint narrative, but if you can think of something.
The third narrative.
Yes, the third narrative, that too. Yes, a great podcast too. There are two podcasts called The Third Narrative, so you have to find the right one. Oh no, it's called Unapologetic, The Third Narrative. There are two that are called Unapologetic, but the one that's called Unapologetic, The Third Narrative is also very, very good.
Could I ask about, I didn't fully understand, or I hadn't heard used before, this term normalization. Can somebody explain what that means to me? Means to me, in other words.
Yeah, it's a movement that started after 2000 when the second Intifada started. Actually, this time when the PLO accepted the Oslo peace agreement, and since then it was normal to do peace activities with Israelis. But in 2000, 2001, when Palestinians started to understand that, this peace is just a tool to create more realities in West Bank, to build more walls, to build more settlements, the Palestinians start to attack the whole peace movement by calling, if you talk to Israelis, you are making normalization. What is normalization? Is to show the unnormal thing normal. It means if you take a picture of me and Rotem here, and you post it on Facebook, it will show that we are equal, we are normal, we have the same right, we both in New York. We don't know that he has two privileged passports and I have poor visa they gave to me after 8 months. And I'm always terrified to enter and to come back, so they don't send me back. But the whole story and the way I travel back. So mostly, and there started to be a lot of kind of peace organizations who just want to do organization for peace. Like this is dance for peace, and this is hummus for peace, and this is everything for peace. So people started, to attack these movements that they show that there are peace, or there are enough Israelis want peace, while this is not the reality. That's the anti-normalization movement. And this is a political word. The Arabs use it if anyone want to do any Arab countries want to build any relation with Israel, like United Arab Emirates and what happened. And actually one of the reasons of what happened in the 7th of October is the normalization with Saudi Arabia.
Right.
And we know that. Yeah.
It's basically like coexistence without the intention to challenge the power dynamics.
I see.
Okay, if you want to show as if we can live in peace, but the situation will stay like this. No, we need to make it equal before we can coexist together. But some people are trying to show as if the problem is that we don't coexist enough. No, this is not the problem. The problem is that we don't have equality. One people is living on top of the other. As long as you are not willing to challenge it, like just getting to know each other, creating friendships, but not working together to change the status quo, the dynamics on the land. So this, if like we just go to eat hummus and to have parties together, Palestinians will come and tell us you are normalizers. Like you just making
see.
peace as if it's normal, but you don't challenge the system.
Right. Very helpful, thank you. And along with that, when you were talking about the 2 million Arabs who live in Israel and that they have rights, is that in a way pointing toward a one-state solution?
Yeah.
Where you don't have two states side by side?
So
With everyone in that one state having equal rights?
I don't care about the title, to be honest.
Okay.
I don't care what they call it. One state, two United States, EU style, whatever they want to call it, they want to call it. I think it's the nature of the human beings. This is not a miracle, and we are not asking for something like extra. When people live on the same land, sharing the same piece of land, they should share the same rights according to Judaism, according to God, according to human rights,
Right.
according to all rights on the world. So that is, we believe when people have rights and when people live equal, they will less fight about nationalities and
Right.
about ownership.
Right.
And this is history, you know, we are seeing this. When you give people rights, they change, they upgrade, the enemyhood will melt. Imagine like there is an Israel is around 75 years old until today. How many joint schools, Israeli and Palestinians studying together?
One.
Maybe five.
No,
I will say five. Okay, why? Why in the only democracy in the Middle East, Arabs and Jews don't study in the same school? Why, you think? Because they don't want us to live together. They don't want us to learn the language of each other. They don't. We have five schools like and villages like Neve Shalom and Givat Habiba and this and that. And guess what? Most of the people who go to these schools usually don't serve in the army because they know Arabic, because they meet Palestinians, they see them as a human beings and not as enemies, and it doesn't serve the system. That's the problem. Why you built five settlements around my city? None of my city speak Hebrew. None of the settlers speak Arabic. Why? Why they are living in cages, inside fences,
Right.
and have hectares of lands and water, running water every day, and weapons? How you want me to accept them? How you want me to see them part of the place as a child, as a human being? They are not. What the problem of Israel, they didn't come to the Middle East to be part of the Middle East. They are 75 years in Middle East and they still go to Eurovision because they feel Europeans. They don't feel part of the Middle East. If that was the situation, imagine Israel forced all the Jewish people to learn Arabic instead of erasing the Arabic nationality even from the Arab Jews. Even the Arab Jews, they were challenged to forget they are Arabs in order to fit.
And eat gefilte fish.
And eat gefilte fish.
I didn't,
It was a joke. And eat gefilte fish. I mean, what's a
Oh.
gefilte fish? No. It's a
Polish.
Jewish food.
oh, yeah. I get that.
Ashkenazi.
I have heard of that thing, yes.
Yes.
Well, thank you, that's very helpful.
Well,
You
I
both
agree with
said.
what you're saying. How do you propose this change comes about? How do you think that we could help make this change? Because I love the idea, but I don't
Yeah.
see how that's going to happen.
I wouldn't send my children to the Israeli system, education system.
No, but as a person sitting here, I'm not Israeli, I'm not Jewish.
Yeah, so
But as a Muslim person sitting here, how would I be able to help facilitate something like that, like bringing their worlds together? How
first,
would you do that?
yeah, so for me, I try to like support this mixed community of people who are engaged in communication, living together, gatherings, events, so people will get to know each other.
What you already did in your house on
Yes.
Tuesday.
Amen to that. Beautiful evening.
And the education, so alternative education. The most of the indoctrination and the brainwash, it happens in the educational system. So once you take your child out of the system, you save him from being indoctrinated to believe that the army is the solution. And then also here, like to support organizations that are trying to bring a new narrative about living together, about ending the discrimination, ending the military complex, stop sending weapons, put pressure on the US government to stop sending weapons to a war zone. Like this is, it's against the US laws, actually. They send weapons. This is against their own laws, against the international laws. It's just poor like billionaires who make millions of dollars from weapons, and they want to have
I'm
this.
aware of all of that. I'm
Yeah.
just saying, is there any
So
organization
organized.
or something that you know of that I could help support?
Yeah,
where
on
we
the
can
land.
Have, that in Israel or Palestine,
Yeah.
we can have them work and live together.
There are many organizations.
We
Can
can
give you
give you a
names.
list of,
Yad
this
B'Yad.
lady can, this
So,
lady
Sadaka
can give you a list of a
Yeah.
lot of
Right,
organizations.
but let's hear the ones that Rotem is saying.
Yeah, so Yad B'Yad and Givat Chaviva are mixed schools. Then you have Sadaka Reut, it's an organization in Jaffa. They work with teenagers from both sides. Amazing organization. Now you have standing together. It's a movement of Palestinian Israelis and Jewish Israelis.
Forum of the mixed families.
Forum, yeah, the parent circle, people from both sides who lost their loved ones and come together. One of them are those who are in the book.
Very, very fun.
Yeah.
Combatants for peace.
Combatants for Peace.
The Jerusalem Chorus of Palestinian and.
She knows better than.
They were just in New York, actually.
Yeah.
Didn't you
Next
mention
I-
Nevi Shalom earlier?
Also, this one homeland for two people, it's a mixed organization.
Yeah, a land for all.
A land for all.
Yeah.
Should be
Yeah,
something.
I want to tell you a different opinion actually about this. We Palestinians and Israelis are traumatized enough. We have few people here working on these organizations, and mostly they are the same people, running between each other. I appreciate all what they are doing. They are convinced, and for me as Palestinian, after 15 years being in this peace work, I did not see change from the organizations. To be honest, I don't know why, but I did not see a change. I will say you don't have to support over there. I want you to support what's happening here. There are Israeli and Jewish people here fighting each other every day. The change will not come from the land. We
agree
are
with you
very
100%.
traumatized. Yeah, try here to create a space where the Israeli Zionists and the Palestinians who don't believe can sit and talk and find way to stand for humanity, to forget their political beliefs and to understand because they are privileged sitting in their comfortable sofas, they are not in risk and not in danger. They are just justifying or giving time to more families and innocent people to die by their political discussion that doesn't help anyone. Yeah, that's where the change can come, I believe, from the people who are living here outside, who don't face checkpoints and discrimination every day. They are not living under danger. When I go with Rotem, I'm afraid to be arrested, for example, as administrative detention, and he could be the traitor. Here it's different. So I would appreciate if you create here in America such spaces for Israelis and Palestinians to meet and to see each other, you know. And I will say, and to understand two things. First, we need to understand that Israelis will never be safe in the land as long as Palestinians are not free. Yeah, that's history. Since 75, they tried every time. I don't think they don't understand. by weapons, by force, every year, the Palestinians getting even worse or better in the armed resistance. So security doesn't work. And we need to understand also that Palestinians won't be free as long as Israelis are not safe. And we tried violent, non-violent, everything. We need to work on both things. The Palestinians to be free and for the Israelis to be safe and Israelis to be safe for the Palestinians to be free. You know, that's the only way to save everyone. But keep fighting over who's more victim than the other. And you know, I'm right and you're wrong, and I am the good one, and the evil is labeled for the other side only. This will keep us in this circle and will not change. Thank you.
So I thought to end, I'd read two more short poems. I have them in Hebrew, so I'm translating them on the spot. Sorry. And these are recently written. I just got them in the last couple of days.
Are they short enough to read in Hebrew first, just for them?
Sure.
The words.
Sure. The first one, well, maybe I'll read it in English first, and then you can hear the words in the
Yes,
Hebrew.
yes, thank you.
So this one is called A Little Bit Every Time, and this is dedicated to you, Osama. As he said, an Arab man who allows himself to cry. I don't know who to cry about first, so I sort my tears, each time a little bit. I don't have enough eyes to cry on for everybody at once. In Hebrew it's כל פעם קצת. אני לא יודע על מי לבכות קודם, אז אני ממיין את הדמעות, כל פעם קצת. אין לי מספיק עיניים כדי לבכות על כולם בבת אחת. So that was a sad one, and now we'll end with a hopeful one. This one is called Simmering on a Low Fire by Naama Moses. She says, again, you left your worry on the fire. Turn down the flame. Focus on what you have. Open your window. Expand your horizon. Hope cooks very slowly. And in Hebrew, לבשל על אש קטנה. שוב השארת את הדאגה על האש. הנמיכי את הלהבה. התמקדי ביש. פתחי חלון. הרחיבי את נקודת המבט. תקווה מתבשלת לאט. Thank you everybody for coming. And let's continue this conversation because I think, you know, what you said a little bit about, you know, Jewish Americans versus Zionists, I think Jewish Americans are the strongest Zionists and they don't know the other narrative.
Right.
And we need to have this conversation with people where we're not preaching to the choir because they really, they think very simplistic things. And on both sides there are people that think very simplistic things. So it's on us to bring the complexity and the true picture in. Thanks again.
Yeah, and I want to say to Jewish Americans, I met a lot of Jewish American youth. They come to West Bank as Americans. Yeah, no one will ask you what is your identity or where you came from because we feel we don't have fences because we feel it's our land. So I met a lot of Jewish Americans youth when they come to West Bank in Jordan Valley and they live in many places. They don't go to the army. They go actually to resist, mostly come to resist with Palestinians. But when they go to the army first, the only way they meet Palestinians as enemies in checkpoints or here or there, and they came back with carrying the same trauma that most of the Israeli soldiers carrying. So if you really want, I don't mind if you want to send your children to fight for the only safe place for the Jewish people on earth where everyone is carrying weapon. But if you want to send them before to be humans, before they being soldiers. Yeah.
I think that this movie, Israelism, told the story about American kids, American Jewish kids, the way that they grew up here with thinking about Israel, the idealism, And I think the name of it's like the two young girl and boy that, you know, is here in LA, something in the countries, and they see the reality, you know. I think it's a good movie, and to expand this among Israeli or Jews in the US, it's a very.
So yesterday we met the protagonist, Simon, and she told us Hillel just like forbidden to watch this movie to it.
Wow.
Not surprising.
I was actually an
Which movie?
young, and then that's what it is, whenever it was with Lebanon, they're cheering for a war, like, they don't know, and it's sad, you know, you're like, okay, how do I tell you? That, you know, so it is, I think it's important for us to spread it here
Yeah.
more than
Yeah, I think
anything.
the movie
Yeah.
is doing a very good.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
אוסאמה נדבר, וגם רותם. תגיד רותם שנייה, אם הוא שם.
Just a second. I think Erica wants to say something to you.
Other than I love you guys, לא, נדבר, כי אוסאמה נדבר, כי אני רוצה שתבוא לכאן. בסדר? Alright, we'll talk. Can you hear me?
No.
Alright. נדבר.
יופי.
צ'או צ'או, ביי. נדבר, ביי. תודה, ביי.
Well,